Using this conversation with the very next one we're about to have, and you may have heard by now that you have to brace yourselves to pay more for your water and electricity in a few days, as the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has raised utility tariffs for water and electricity by 14.75% and 4.02% respectively across the board, citing inflation, the cedi dollar situation, among others. Well, this morning we delve into the issue. Joining us, we have Yaa Jantuah. She's a board member of the PURC and a presidential staffer. Yaa, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
You seem a bit low this morning.
I've been in some traffic,
Congratulations. I think
thank you.
It's been a while since you've been on the show, so
yes,
congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
And everything in between, and welcome back, I should say.
Thank you.
Before we get into the PURC matter, I just want your brief take on the Boku situation.
I think
what you've seen, what you think.
Let me say good morning to your viewers and good morning to everybody. Good morning to yourself. I haven't seen you in a while. Also taking this opportunity to thank you and everybody for the opportunity you guys gave me all along and the support. I'm most grateful, and I promise that nothing has changed. It was just a brief, sometimes you need to adjust and make sure that things are the same. But nothing has changed. I'm still with you, and I'll certainly be coming as and when it's appropriate. I think that we should let peace prevail. I'm appealing to all factions to lay down and let peace prevail, because we have women, we have children. We should let peace prevail. Think that, and I'm happy that the Otumfuo committee, I know for a fact that Otumfuo will do a great work and bring some peace, to the area. I believe that we should let peace prevail. We are all Ghanaians, we are one people, we have one destiny, and we have one nation.
Thank you for those thoughts on Boku. Let's get right to the PURC and the latest increments, and we've seen them 14+%, 4+%. You're a board member of the...
I didn't think that I was coming to talk about this. This is for the Secretariat.
This is for the Secretariat.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed, but you are in the thick of things. In fact, you've been there before.
I've heard everybody is mentioning my name, that where am I? But I'm a board member, I'm not with the Secretariat anymore.
Indeed. You don't have, those...
No.
You don't make those decisions.
No,
but
we make the decisions, but we don't talk about the decisions as a structure. But this is a platform that is almost like my own, so I cannot this thing.
You have prime of place. I just wanted to ask first off, maybe what your take is.
I'm okay. Exchange rate, inflation, electricity, generation mix, and the cost of fuel informed the decision by the board. Actually, we had a meeting and there was a stalemate. There was a deadlock. Initially, we were looking at about 27.5 or so, and not everybody agreed, especially the trade union and the AGI. They did not agree. So you remember there was a story. Then we had to regroup again and look at the figure again and see how it can be tweaked and even broken into slots over time, because we're also looking at a major tariff review in September. So we look at all the considerations therein, and the board, the commission decided to settle on 14.75. It wasn't still unanimous, but we had gotten somewhere, and most of the commissioners agreed to this figure. It wasn't unanimous, though. Even at that point, there were still issues that the AGI and the TUC raised, but we settled at that point with majority of the people saying that is the way we should go. because you see there is a debt overhang in terms of the revenue requirement of the utilities, and we are looking about 900 and I think something 100 something million that has to be covered, and that translates into the 27.5. But we then decided to do a 15% of the increase, which would translate to 50% of the revenue requirements. That is an overhang being cleared through this tariff. So that is what it is. And you should also, I heard so many things about how the MPP did better. I mean, I don't think that should the way we should go, because if we are going through the data, there were times that the MPP, I mean, the last 2 quarters of 2024, what was realized, it wasn't even passed on. Then in 2023, they did an 18.38 at a point and 18.88 at a point, and certainly this is not doing better than anybody. It's Ghana we are all thinking about. But you see, every time the MPP is in opposition, they use the tariff as politics. When NDC was in opposition, they understood what it is and they never used it for politics. So the point...
They never did?
No, it was... I mean, I was even surprised that it wasn't as much, because today I see MPP, the Deputy Minister for Energy, everybody talking, but it goes beyond this. I mean, if a whole quarter, you didn't do anything, the last 2 quarters, 2024, you didn't pass on what you realized as in the tariff. I don't know what went on then. But with the first quarter, maybe we're talking about transition issues. So for instance, if we're able to do first quarter and second quarter, it would have been less. Because breaking the 14.75 into 2, certainly would have been less for us to carry. And we don't want it to keep accumulating, because if you do that, then at the end of the day, the revenue requirement suffers. And if the utility is not going to do what they have to do, then they blame it on the revenue requirements. But now the money that they need to do their work, even though it was an overhang, we are now going to hold them to quality of service standards, because we have cleared 50% of that amount as we pay our tariff in the next 3 months. We should also talk about condition precedent issues with the IMF. And this government did not take Ghana to IMF. I mean, it's a condition precedent, but it is not the main thing. So if anybody says that, I mean, the NDC says they wouldn't increase tariffs, you went for IMF and the tariff was a condition precedent. I know that certain portions, I'm not too sure which, of the contract or the agreement between Ghana and the IMF has been renegotiated. But once this one is key, it is very difficult for you to renegotiate this one. But as we also do tariffs in bits and pieces with the automatic adjustment formula, certainly when you get to the main one, you might not see the increases that normally comes up. The issue here is that people are mixing the fuel debts to this one. This one is just money that the utility needs to work. ECG, VRA, GridCo, NetCo. So this is their revenue requirement that has,
So when you talk of the fuel debt, you're talking about powering.
Yeah, the fuel debt, the IP. Yeah, it's a separate cost. Yeah, it's a separate conversation. And that one too was necessitated largely by the fact that, if you remember, somewhere 2018, 2019, there was a 20% decrease in tariffs. That also represents a certain cost. Because if you do a 20% decrease in tariffs, then it means that you are really putting the utilities in some trouble. Because,
in other words, part of what we're facing can be traced back to that.
Yes, part of that can be traced back to, especially the fuel cost. Because when then it happened like that, then government decided to take the fuel bill. And especially if you are using LCO as part of the combination of the fuel mix into the generation mix, then what you are then doing is that you are spending more money. So then it becomes, so as they generate, you have to provide the fuel for them. But if you are unable to do so and pay for it, then there is trouble. But this is very separate from that one. People are mixing the two. This is very separate. This is just the revenue requirement that will allow ECG to buy cables, to do ABCD. That will help Gridco to repair transmission lines, to do maintenance, to put up substations. That will allow the generation companies to pay for generation through gas and all that. So this one is a revenue requirement that we are looking at, and it is an overhang of 973 million or something like that.
Right. Let me just let our viewers know that at some point we'll activate the phone line so that you can share your thoughts on this matter. We've not activated them yet. Don't start calling. When we activate them, we'll let you know, and you can share your thoughts on these matters. The argument has been made, even from the business community, and they've spoken about, well, so this is purportedly on the back of inflation, the exchange rate and all of that. But inflation is ticking down, isn't it? The trajectory is down. I think it's increased marginally, but it's been pretty stable. The exchange rate has also been pretty stable when you look at the dollar. So what are the real dynamics?
No, because when you look at the inflation rates, this is a quarter tariff, so they will do an aggregation and project. It's more of projection into the whole quarter. So if a month the inflation rate is okay, you have to project to see what will be the next inflation rate. Even the exchange rate that we used is even lower than what is existing at the Forex. We use the interbank rate, and even though it's stable from the last quarter, because the last one that they did was in 2024, and from that quarter there has been some marginal this thing in the exchange rate. So these are some of the things that we looked at. I mean, even because we use largely gas, not LCO. If we're going to use LCO as a mix, it might even have gone up. But we use largely gas with a view that gas is going to be stable after every arrangement that we have done. Gas is going to be stable, and certainly it's cheaper than LCO. So these are rates that, you know, you need to do projections into the future. The word does not come, there's a word for it. When it comes, I'll use it. You need to do projections into the future and try to levelize it to ensure that there is some stability here.
I don't know whether it's the president I heard or maybe the minister for the sector that I heard. Somebody recently was talking about, you know, working on the plants and getting self-sufficiency when it comes to gas and all that. I've forgotten whether
the minister said that we have to get our own the gas processing plant.
Right. To ensure that we are not waiting for all this gas coming from outside at a cost, and that we can power from
because
here. Will that be part of the solution?
Yes, that is a great solution if we do our own things. And because you remember we had issues when the West Africa gas pipeline decided to do some maintenance, and we had issues with payment and all that. But if we are doing our own thing, at the end of the day, I believe that that is what it is. It will really help. It's also reduce the influence of the LCO, which is always much higher than the gas component.
Let's talk justification versus timing.
Okay.
Justified, these increments, of course, every quarter or so, the PURC will have to look at what the dynamics are and peg a rate for electricity and water. Justified, and the timing as well, looking at where Ghanaians are.
That is why we didn't go the full haul, because if we were to go the full haul, then we're doing 27.75 or something like that.
So this is even conservative. This is conservative.
Yes.
Taking into consideration the plight of Ghanaians.
The plight of Ghanaians. Because you see, I always say that the cost of unserved energy is more expensive than energy through the grid. It's expensive as in price and it's expensive as in circumstance. And for instance, if I have a shop and I'm not getting electricity through the grid, then I need to get a generator. A generator uses fuel and it's more expensive. When you compute the cost of unserved energy to the cost of electricity to the grid, it's always cheaper. And that is the reason why we decided that with everything that is going on, we can't go full haul, but we need to do a certain thing, because our work is to ensure the financial viability of the utility service provider, while at the same time looking at the interest of the consumer. Because if you do not look at the financial viability of the utility service provider, then we are collapsing the utilities. We are collapsing the utilities. If you have a backlog of 970 something million waiting, you get me, almost $1 billion, and as you postpone the increment, then you are then increasing the debt. You are then increasing the overhang. Then they cannot be able to do what they have to do. But what we are taking from them is, as we have reduced this debt by 50% through a 15% tariff increase, there is almost 15% tariff increase. There is the need for them to give us the right quality of service. And that is what the PURC is going to ensure, to make sure that the utility service providers are going to work and work well. We are going to whip them into line to do the right thing for the Ghanaian.
ECG, GWCL, and all
ECG, all of GWCL
right.
is a
quick intervention.
Yeah.
So you see, this approach then, if it was meant to be about 27%,
yeah,
and we are pegging it where we are now because of the plight of ordinary Ghanaians. The other bit is, you know how subsidies, then you would say somehow we are subsidizing for the ordinary Ghanaian. But subsidies in the past have never worked. They only seem to add to our debt portfolio. Why are we still using this approach? So
what we are doing is that, I mean, we are going to monitor everything to make sure that, you see now there's a revenue mobilization exercise going on, and we will look at all the quality of service indicators, and we also have 3 quarters, and in September we have a major tariff review. A major tariff review where we'll be able to interrogate thoroughly all the activities of the utility service providers. So if for any reason there is the need, if these parameters don't go too well, and we hope it will go too well and we pray it will go too well, we have 3 quarters to look at. And what we will look at, maybe we break it down in very small bits till we get to the major tariff review. There are so many things that we can do, but for now, because there has been a backlog, we need, because immediately you reduce it to 50%, then you know that you are getting somewhere. Because as you look at it and the bulk is increasing, then you leave it like that. The moment it crosses a certain threshold of $1 billion, then you are going to get trouble. Then you might have the uncomfortable responsibility to increase it further. But for now, we believe that this is, if we have cleared 50% in the next quarter, we will be monitoring to see how the trajectory goes.
So you're trying to fill the gap and stabilize the system. But at the same time, let's consider, you've already mentioned the AGI and the TUC and how engagements with them. One good thing I see is that when an action is going to be taken, all these entities are engaged, at least now. That is,
they are even on the board.
I see. But when it comes to the TUC and the AGI have been engaged, we've heard from them, we've heard from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Did you also contemplate the impact on the business community in arriving at these decisions? Because a lot of them are saying, we're going to have to pass on the cost to the end user. We can't take the hit. The second bit is that they are saying some of us are going to be affected twice over because we use electricity and we use water to produce. Look at the beverage companies, for example. How would you address this? You see,
that's why I said the cost of unserved energy. That's granted that you get up in the morning, because per kilowatt hour of electricity by a generator and per kilowatt hour of electricity per electricity through the grid. Certainly by generator is more expensive. It's more expensive as in cash and in circumstance. That generator that you have, if your fuel gets finished, you then have to fill up. But with grade electricity, once you put it on and it's stable and there is good quality, you don't have a problem. You just pay your bill at the end of the month. And so if the power is not available for industry, that is more serious than the power is available and you are paying something to sustain the system and clear the debt. Because if there is too much of a debt overhang, then it means that the utilities are going to suffer and they are going to have issues and they will not be able to give us the power that we need.
How will this impact the rollout of the 24-hour economy?
I heard somebody saying that His Excellency Mahama said that the 24-hour economy, they are going to increase tariffs. You see, reduce tariffs. The 24-hour economy, it's not going to affect it because if what I know per what the manifesto says and what His Excellency Mahama says, there's going to be time of use meters and time of use tariffs, which will come up when the policy kickstarts in earnest. So the time that you use your electricity will determine what rate you pay. Because we are even discussing looking at the tariff structure and how to, make it more comfortable for the consumer to pay. So these are all new things, interventions and innovations that will come into electricity mix in the country. The time of use, you've been talking about time of use. So if you use the electricity during the day, and most of these companies use it through the day, even in the night, once you have a time of use meter, it will help reduce a bit of the cost. And also, one thing that is good is renewables, that we can look at off-grid solar solutions, that your factory can have off-grid solar solutions for almost everything that they do. Maybe some heavy-duty machines will be on the grid, but today even there are some technologies that are available with solar to take on the bigger machinery. So these are all interventions that will look into the generation mix to ensure that the 24-hour economy is successful. You see, but without electricity, we have done 14%. Without electricity, the 24-hour economy cannot even start. So we need to make the system stable through a tariff that is reasonable for the utility service provider and also for the consumer as well. The consumer also being the industries, the commercial entities, the hairdressers, everybody, so we can get Ghana going.
I have heard, just to take you back to the bit about the 24-hour economy, I did hear the president and other speakers talk about the fact that based on when, you mentioned the timelines. So if past working hours, you're still going to continue working, the tariffs will be lower for you, likely, and all of that. But mention was made of lowering taxes, tariffs, as well. Generally, this is not helpful, is it?
Which one is that?
I'm talking of the utility tariffs.
No, this one is a quarterly tariff. We are going to do a major tariff review.
Major tariff?
Yes, and this one, there's a debt that is there. So I even advocated somewhat that if we can look at the 27 and clear the debt. Because you see, when you do the major tariff review, it takes you another 12 months to even do any other tariff, or sometimes 6 months. But so with this debt overhang, we cannot carry it into a major tariff review. It's a real debt that is waiting for us to pay. So for instance, if all these mobilization efforts that they are putting in yields some amount of money, it might even clear what is left. Then there might not be any need for even anything, but we go straight into our major tariff review and interrogate everything, their investments, their everything that they need to do. Then we can decide on something. But for now, we really need to make sure that we reduce the debt. We don't want the debt overhang, because when it stays in the books of the utilities, sometimes it's very difficult for you to even do a tariff, because it is hanging in there. Whatever tariff you do, it's not able to cover it if you leave it for so long. You see, they left it from the last quarter of 2024, the third quarter,
so
fourth quarter.
Inherited.
Yes, inherited burden. It's an inherited. We don't want to go into the politics, because if we're going to open up everything, I mean, that is a Pandora's, but it's not necessary. It is an inherited burden. Do you get me? And the first quarter, nothing was done. And as
let me do some conjecturing here. I've not seen this anywhere. I'm just thinking aloud. Could it also be that, yes, these debts have to be taken care of, but because we also want to make the utilities, especially ECG, viable for privatization?
No.
So we want to clear the debt?
No, that's not it. It's not only ECG that is on this debt. Gridco has something in there. VRA has something in there. Everybody has something in there. That has to do with the operations. It is not. We've had this the PSP committee, and we've looked at everything that there is with ECG. I don't think that is what it is. It didn't come up in our discussion. This is a normal quarterly review that
the PURC is a largely autonomous entity, right?
We are independent according to Law Act 538. We are not
independent according to the law,
yes.
which is the case. Thanks for that confirmation. So
yes.
You are not.
It says specifically
impacted by what a government thinks.
Right? No. We are impacted by what will be good for Ghana. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we have stakeholders, a consumer rep, an AGI rep, then a TUC rep. This is the whole facet and trajectory of the people within our space.
So it's not the government telling you to increase prices or reduce prices?
No. The government doesn't tell us. They don't get involved. The only thing that we do is that when we do the tariff, we inform government that these are your utilities, and this is the kind of tariff that we have done for them based on A, B, C, D, E. If the government has any questions, they ask. But they don't interfere to tell you that do A or B or C. It doesn't happen that way.
But at the same time, I recall during the COVID times, I think, we had some arrangements. The government put some things out, and the PURC responded. What would you call that? It means government has some influence.
But what I'm saying, at that time, everything turned upside down. And some of the things that went on certainly wasn't right, the whole country. So if one portion of it, they were interfering and doing things anyhow, we would say that was the order of the day. But typically, most governments don't do that. Most governments don't interfere. The only thing is that if there is something, they would discuss and see that if it can go this way, if it cannot, you also bring your point. But government does not interfere. Immediately you are sworn in. That is why it's not any minister or ministry that swears us in. It's the president or the chief of staff. And immediately you are sworn in, your independence starts. It says that you are not to the direction or control of anybody or thing. So meaning that the PURC is independent. What is important now to maybe take it a notch further to ensure that our independence is steeped in the Constitution, that it becomes constitutional, like all the other independent bodies. And you see, the point is that when PURC was set up, the Constitution had already been put in place. So you only had to take a law, an act of parliament, to bring out our independence. But now there is a constitutional review process, and we will see how we can go ahead and do that to make the independence more steep in the Constitution instead of by an act of parliament. Yeah.
You speak of this major tariff review
in September.
I'm sure a lot of people will say, okay, so should we have been hit with the 27%? The business community will say no. Prices would have been hiked even further, half and half and all of that. But can we expect anything better at the end of the day? It's like in the Bible, can anything good come out of Galilee?
Of course.
Will the tariffs at any point get lower? That's my
there are times that it's been lower. I mean, even when I was in PURC, there were quarters that it goes down. And you know
but usually they are marginal, but the increments tend to be.
But you know, tariffs are very contingent. They are not categorical. They are contingent on these factors and other factors, and we even input stakeholder consultations as also the factor that is absent on the main one. So it's very contingent, and once it's contingent of factors, it depends on how these factors move along. It is very key that the way these factors move along would determine which way. Sometimes even we try to let the art of it, we have the science of it and the art of it.
Right.
Sometimes we let the art of it take precedence over the science of it, so that consumers will be a bit relieved. But it is largely and it's contingent of factors that impinges on the economy.
There is Imoro Sese who sends in this comment, and you would notice that sometimes I see comments in there, but the highly political ones that I see coming from what we call, the party boys and girls, I ignore. I'll not give any credence to those, especially looking at the nomenclature of some of your handles. I'm not even going to give you, dignify those with reading. But when it comes to this, what is the justification of these tariff increments by the ECG, 14.7% and 4+%? ECG should tell us how many people are still doing postpaid, using postpaid meters in their houses and are not paying, and that they are making losses or incurring losses. I buy through my phone, so ECG cannot tell me they are making losses from my meter. This is someone who is also looking at it from the perspective of, I pay my bills, I do, prepaid and all of that. What would be your reaction to someone like this?
No, I think that the person is talking about two different things. This tariff is not done because of losses. There is a loss benchmark within the tariff. And beyond that loss benchmark, every other loss is the utilities loss. The only loss that...
But that's the same point the person is addressing. There's a loss benchmark within the PURC factoring into what we are seeing, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, the ECG will also tell you that sometimes it still doesn't cover for forex losses and other losses. So he's talking about losses
because forex losses is not within the... That's why I'm saying that we will always deal with exchange rate, inflation, generation mix, and all that. Do you get me? How much hydro is available? How much thermal is available? What kind of fuel are we using? Are we using LCO? Are we using gas? What are the percentages? Can we use more hydro? What are the projections? These are what goes into the tariffs. And what we are talking about is, for instance, if I have to give you money to go to market, and I want to eat akrantie soup, and I give you 20 cedis. 20 cedis cannot prepare soup, the kind of soup I'm looking for. But if I give you 250, 300, that can prepare the soup I am looking for. So this one is about the revenue that is accruable to ECG. It's not only ECG, Gridco, VRA, Netco, and even the IPPs. How much do you need to operate? Before we talk about losses, losses are benchmarked. So once the losses are benchmarked, any loss that you do, and we should remember that we have technical losses and we have commercial losses. We always put our minds on the commercial losses. The technical losses itself impinges on the kind of system that you have. System overloads, line overloads. Do you get me? Transformer overloads. So all these things are things that have to be replaced, especially the wires business. The wires business is very expensive. The wires business being ECG and Gridco, because there should be rapid transformation and rapid maintenance. So, as and when, and most of the things that they do is in forex, is in foreign exchange. The things that they buy, specialized equipment, transformers, even some of the uniforms that they wear, fireproof, all those things. Sometimes they have to import them. So that's why I'm saying that whatever happens depends on the factors that impinges on the tariffs. If the factors are great, why not? It's automatic. You put in your model and it turns out what the factors are saying. Even if one of the factors, two of the factors are good enough, the exchange rate alone can torpedo everything. because it's a cost. That is where the cost reflective is there. That is the exchange. We can torpedo everything. The price of LCO, the price for gas is okay. Granted that you don't have enough gas and you have to do LCO, that also torpedoes. But the exchange rate is a striking factor, and that we should all make sure that we have an import substitution measure in this country to reduce our imports, so that the burden of our CD will come down. Or as a nation, we make up our mind, as His Excellency John Mahama said, that if there's a need for us to also form our own body in the sub-region, like the BRICS is doing, so that we'll be able to sustain the strength of our currency.
Right. Imoro comes back to say, I'm not blaming the government, the NDC government. I'm saying the company should take steps to collect the tariffs effectively. I think that was clear from your message. But thank you for adding further clarity to it. Two quick things I want to run by you.
What I want to tell Moro is that it's not only ECG.
Right.
This one is generation, transmission, and ECG and NETCO are distribution.
Right.
So if he has issues with ECG, we'll certainly look at it, and we will look at it thoroughly. Yeah.
We'll be activating the phone lines in a bit, so stick and stay. You don't want to miss that opportunity on the different issues we've discussed here, but especially ECG. But if you want to talk about the Boku situation as well, you're free to do so. The IMF conditionalities, there are some conditions in there when it comes to some of this. What is the situation on that? We said we would negotiate a few things. I don't know whether that...
I don't know. I don't know what they have negotiated, but where I sit, I know that quarterly tariff adjustment is a condition precedent, because they do not, I believe they do not also want government to use the money to be paying the debt overhang in terms of revenue requirements, when the tariff can deal with it, when issues, quality of service indicators can deal with it, when mobilization of revenue can deal with it. So I believe that is where they are coming from. And if anybody says that government has done this, government didn't go to IMF, but government is a continuum, and once whatever you inherit from your predecessor, you carry it along. So you are able to say that I am out of it. There is a contract, there is an agreement, and that agreement, it's possible there is no exit clause in there that you can easily say that I am out. So you need to hold on and gradually see how it goes. So you decide that we move on slowly, then you decide that, okay, now I'm fine. And if we can talk about things like that. But I mean, these are, maybe I have to look at what kind of arrangements they're in, because it's possible there's no exit clause that you can just get up and say I'm off. Yeah.
Now, if you look at, this is my final question to you, the composite of problems we have in our energy sector, especially from IPPs to distribution issues to the containers bit to losses and everything in between. I noticed that one senator in the United States was recently saying that the next tranche of IMF money coming to us, a chunk of it should be taken away for companies, IPPs, that Ghana owes. That's how bad the situation has got. In that regard, how are we factoring in energy diversification, the energy transition? What is your take on that? That's my final bit to you.
No, you see, when I saw that post, I was like...
The senator?
Yes, you are an American, you don't know the conditions of the IMF. IMF doesn't use their money to pay debts. They use their money in productive ways that...
But there are some specificities when it comes to the energy sector.
Yeah, but that is why they want us to do some of these things to ensure that there is not a ballooning of debt as in requirements of the revenue. Because even though this one is hanging as in the fuel cost, that is owed to the IPPs. If we leave this as well, then it means that you are going to have a crash. Revenue requirement is ballooning, then prices to pay for fuel too is also ballooning, and that is not good enough. On the issue of energy transitions, I believe we are talking about renewable energy and diversifying our electricity sources. I believe the time has come for us to go solar off-grid and also do some work on wind energy and biogas, biofuels, to see how we can use it in this country. I mean, for instance, the whole of your organization, multimedia, you could have solar panels for some of your equipment. And once you have solar panels for some of your equipment, it takes off the burden on the grid. But as we are talking about transitions, we also talk about conservation. It's key. Sometimes we ourselves, we waste a lot of electricity. And I believe the time has come for Energy Commission and other stakeholders to come on board to do a lot of education. There used to be Energy Foundation. I don't know if they still exist. But we need to do a lot of education on the way we use electricity in Ghana. It is key. Sometimes you go around in the night, especially on Thursday, you find that most of the shops, they have lights on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Monday, 4 days. They are not here, they are in Kwewu, but the light is on. So you ask yourself, who is paying for this? Even if you are paying for it, it is a burden on the grid. So
energy, conservation,
yes,
and all of these, I feel these two things, conserving energy, maybe we need more, the NCC together with
yes,
the entities,
yes,
more education.
More education, yes.
It's interesting, someone sent me the charts recently, you know, if you use a fan, if you use a heater, if you use this and that, maybe we need a lot more education on that. And also on the solar energy, using solar energy, prices have really fallen over the last decade. Maybe government should find a way of incentivizing businesses. We could start with businesses.
Maybe reducing the taxes.
More so.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
And you'll get certain
and the president said that 24-hour economy, industries, small-scale businesses would do off-grid solar. You remember in 2014, 2015, at the height of the load shedding, I don't know if you were following, the PURC under a presidential special initiative gave solar panels off-grid to most of the small-scale industries in Ghana, and also the commercial entities like the hairdressers, the tailors, all of them, the shoemakers, the Swami magazine. We help with some solar this thing. But as we do that, we should also tell everybody that as all these interventions are rolled out, they should treat these interventions as their own. Because there were times that we went on monitoring and we found out that a whole solar unit has been taken off. And we wanted to trace it, we couldn't even find it. So as all these interventions are going on, there's the need for us to also, look after the equipment very well, maintenance and all that must be done. But there's a need for us to move on into these new transitions and also look at conservation. Conservation, we're a bit low on conservation.
Right.
We need to put sensors in shops that when the day breaks, yes, the electricity is for security. When the day breaks, it should go off.
Okay.
Then in the night at 6 o'clock, it comes on so that we can conserve some energy.
All right. Just a final bit for you. Presidential staffer, what's the experience been and what have you been up to so far?
The experience has been mixed, great. When I went there initially, I couldn't find my feet because I've never worked in such a big office before. But gradually I'm fine and I'm doing great. And I will extend my greetings this morning to my boss, the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Deborah. He's been very, very great, very, very supportive. I also extend my greetings to the military attaché, to the Chief of Staff, Colonel Bashir, and he's also, Issa, he's also great, a great military man, and my friend Gloria, who I started with from the castle during Atamil's time.
Back in the day, huh?
Back in the day. I still have her name as Gloria Castle. So, these are people who are around us. Honorable Joyce Bauer, a great strength of support. Shamima, Felix, we are all there and they are all a great strength of support. And I'm very grateful to these people. And I'm happy, and I'm also grateful to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for giving me this opportunity. I've said it severally, and also thanking him for taking me back to the PURC to work for the nation. I mean, it's a yeoman's job, but I know that with God on our side, greetings to my commission, my chairman, Professor Akapsa, and all the board members, Dr. Hawawu, and everybody, Edna, a great team that we have out there. The TUC person, Dr. Utu, and also Dr. Dake. We have doctors, and all of them doctors. So, I mean, it's a great team, and I'm learning a lot all over, from the presidency to learning new things in the PURC. It's great, yeah.
Right. Well, we can only wish you the very best to you and to Ghana, because if you shape the right policies, all of us will benefit from that.
But I also want to say that the media, you're always welcome. You are my people, you are my friends, you are my brothers, you are my comrades. I mean, in good times and bad times, you have been there. My doors are always open to you. Anybody who wants to pass by, you are always welcome. For the media, you are always, always welcome.
Thank you very much. You can count on us. We'll be taking that invitation.
Yes.